If you get into a local union apprenticeship, is it normal for you to train under the same journeyman or foreman? There has been people where they do their entire apprenticeship with one company and almost working under the same people. There's others who will have an apprenticeship where they work for many different companies and many different people. Having the same foreman, the same journeyman, working under the same people, the same company in the same area, it's possible. But especially if you get into an outside lineman apprenticeship on the contractor side or the construction side, usually you'll have jurisdictions. Any one of those states within that jurisdiction you could be sent to. So that's something that you have to expect or have on your radar. Like, don't expect to just stay at home your whole apprenticeship and work for the same company. Hello, gentlemen and ladies. Welcome back to episode 18 of CTQ. CTQ is a segment I do on the show, on this channel, called Cruise to Questions. This is where I take your guys' questions, whether you submit them via email or in the comments in the YouTube videos, or you DM me on Instagram or TikTok or wherever you find me and you have questions. I take those questions and I'll try to answer them here. Everyone thinks of things a little bit differently, so if you have questions about blue-collar careers, apprenticeships, how to get started, etc., doesn't even matter the career, I'll answer them here on CTQ. Obviously, the lineman trade is my specialty. That's what I do for a living. I'm a journeyman lineman, completed a IBW apprenticeship in the Northwest in 2017 to 2020. So I've been a lineman a little bit over 4 years now. But it doesn't matter what your questions are, just go ahead and ask them. It can be related to anything because I got, holy crap. That car is flipping loud, doggone it. If you have questions, just go ahead and put them. Just ask them, submit them anywhere. I'll find them, and I'll try to answer them here for you guys. With all that being said, and no further ado, let's hop into question number one. So question number one comes from one of you guys commenting on the video at Jacob Walther 1769. He says, if you get into a local union apprenticeship, is it normal for you to train under the same journeyman or foreman, or do you move around with different crews? In the perspective of the lineman trade or lineman apprenticeship, I know from just talking to other people in a variety of different trades, whether that be ironworkers or HVAC or any other union apprenticeship, for the most part, you're going to get moved where the work is and where you need to get hours. So in the lineman apprenticeship, you're going to need to get handful of hours in the different categories. So you need to get hours in overhead distribution and transmission, underground, substation. You need to get hot work or working on energized live lines. You got to get hours in all these different things. That way you have a better, well-rounded apprenticeship. Now, with that being said, there has been people where they do their entire apprenticeship with one company and almost working under the same people. There's others who will have an apprenticeship where they work for many different companies and many different people. So having the same foreman, the same journeyman, working under the same people, the same company in the same area, it's possible. But especially if you get into an outside lineman apprenticeship on the contractor side or the construction side, usually you'll have jurisdictions. The map I always throw up, you guys can look at it here. These different apprenticeships cover these different states. So if you apply for SWOLCAT, or you apply for Northwest, or you apply for Mountain States, or ALBAT, or NEAT, or CELCAT, any one of those states within that jurisdiction you could be sent to. So that's something that you have to expect or have on your radar. Like, don't expect to just stay at home your whole apprenticeship and work for the same company, working for the same foreman and journeyman. Foreman come and go, journeyman come and go. So you might be working for the same company, for company X with foreman Y and journeyman L, but journeyman L, he might be there for 6 months and drag up and go somewhere else, and then you get a new journeyman. Or you might get transferred to a different job to get different hours, to get different experience. So there's a lot of different variables that really, when it comes to being able to, are you going to be working for the same company, working for the same foreman, working for the same journeyman? I mean, it's a 50-50 chance. I would just expect, I wouldn't go into it with the mentality of I'm going to be working for the same company and the same people. Now, of course, if you get on with a utility or like one company, then yes, you're going to be working for the same company, but you will probably get passed around from different crews, because even within utilities, you still have maintenance, you still have new build, you still have underground crews. So there's a good chance that you'll still be kind of, cycled around different foremen, different journeymen, different crews to get different experience working with different guys. Ultimately, though, it works in your benefit because every guy, every lineman, every journeyman, whatever trade you work in, they all have different skills. They all have different tips and tricks. They all have something different to teach you. So having that open mindset to want to learn new things from different guys, there's a wealth of knowledge and experience out there. Not having that tunnel vision or that closed mind of like, hey, I'm only going to learn from this guy. Or if you only end up working for one company and having the same foreman and journeyman for majority of your apprenticeship, then you're only going to learn so much because that's the only way you're going to learn. It's not until maybe you get transferred or you become a journeyman where you decide to go tramp around and go work in different states or under different contracts on different utility properties, where then you'll start to learn. You'll be working with other experienced linemen or other experienced journeymen who have a wealth of knowledge and experience from other places. And as long as you still go into the mindset of wanting to learn something new every day and it's not your way or the highway, and just having the open mind to wanting to learn and try new things, learn new things, that's going to be a very important mindset to have throughout your entire career. I'm 4 years in as a journeyman, and I still feel like I don't know that much stuff, and I always try to learn something new every day because every lineman has a different way to do it. Whether their way is faster or better or more efficient or safer than the previous way or the next way, that I can't say. But it can be, it will be, sometimes it should be. But either way, you'll learn the good, you'll learn the bad. And being able to travel around and work for different contractors, work for different companies, foremen, have different linemen within your apprenticeship, I think is a great experience, an opportunity to have, so you don't have just that blinders up of like learning it one way with one foreman or the same foreman, the same journey with the same company policy. I don't know. Then eventually when you become a journeyman, you just need to spread your wings and fly a little bit to go out and see and actually learn different things, which is the great thing about being a journeyman. So you'll have that opportunity. Will you train under the same journeyman or foreman? Possibly, yes, but also at the same time, no. So it's going to be 50-50. And do you move around with different crews? 100%. Even if you're on the same job, a big transmission job, things like that, you'll probably work with different crews. Because even on a transmission job, you're going to have your dead ending crew. You're going to have your clipping crew. You're going to have your wire pulling crew. You're going to have your spacing crew. You're going to have your bolting crew. So like you're going to have these different crews. And sometimes when you have the opportunity to get passed from crew to crew, hopefully you go from a clipping crew to a dead ending crew, so you learn the differences between dead ending and clipping or spacing or stack and steel, bolt and steel. So there's that possibility, especially on the outside and within a utility as well. All right, let's hop into question number 2. So this comes from another commenter saying, at CT1227 saying, can you work for a different companies and unions throughout your apprenticeship? Will the hours always transfer? So in the lineman trade, I'm assuming that's what he's going to be talking about. But again, how it is in the union lineman trade is going to be structured very similar to a lot of other union trades, apprenticeships, right? All unions are pretty much structured the same, especially when it comes to apprenticeships. So I would just kind of keep that in mind, whether you want to become a lineman or heavy equipment operator or iron worker or welder or whatever trade you want to get into and you want to get into a union apprenticeship. Most of the structure is going to be the same. There's just going to be some fine line details inside that are going to be obviously different. It's different scopes of work, there's different trainings and things like that. Anyways, can you work for different companies and unions throughout your apprenticeship? Unions, not so much, and work for different companies, yes. So when it comes to apprenticeships and normally how they're structured is Once you become an indentured apprentice within an apprenticeship, you don't solicit your own work. So you're not going to go out and look for your own work as an apprentice. That's up to the apprenticeship committee, the apprenticeship board, to move you around to get different hours in different categories. Right? Lineman trade, like I was saying in the previous question, you're supposed to get hours in these different categories. So it's up to the apprenticeship committee to move you from, let's say you have your 2,000 hours doing transmission work. It's time for them to move you to do distribution work or underground overhead or substation, right? So that's where you'll work for different companies. Now, it is possible if there's a big company like, I'm not going to say any company names, X company, for instance, is a big company and they have a lot of work doing, maybe they're doing a big transmission job. Maybe they have a bunch of distro dock work. Maybe they have a bunch of, they have a bunch of work all over doing all kinds of different things within the trade. That company, they could keep you and you could just get transferred from the transmission job to a distro job, right? So like there's that possibility of you staying within the company and just moving. I know when I was an apprentice, I got moved within the same company actually 3 different times from different parts from Washington to Oregon, back up to Northern Washington. So there is that possibility. So working for different companies is definitely something I would keep in mind and I would expect, just like the previous thing in the previous question. Now, throughout your apprenticeship, different unions, not so much. You might work in, or I should say, you'll work in different union territories or under different contracts. So on the outside, in the outside lineman apprenticeship construction, you look at that map and you're going to have these different states, these different jurisdictions. So now in the Northwest, you're going to have IBW Local 77, 125, 659, and there might be one more small union there. And now as an apprentice, you could be sent anywhere between those states. If you're working in Oregon, there's a good chance you're going to be working under 659 or 125's in their jurisdiction under their contract. But you might be a Local 77 apprentice. But they're all sister unions up there, so it doesn't really matter. They all have the same contract. Now, if you are an apprentice in SWOLCAT down in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Nebraska, maybe one other state, you have Local 769 Arizona. You have Local 611 in New Mexico, you have Local 66 and one other in Texas, and you have these handful of different locals within all those different states, those different jurisdictions. So you'll get passed. You'll work in Arizona under 769's contract, and then they'll transfer you to New Mexico, and then you'll be working under 611's contract on their territory. So you're going to get 611's benefits, pay, and those sorts of things. But as an apprentice, there's already a pre-written contract of basically, apprentices within the SWOLCAT apprenticeship are basically all have the same kind of thing. So you can work under different unions, contracts, and different unions on different unions' property. But what your union ticket says, whatever union you get called out as the groundman or as an apprentice, that's going to be your home local. So like my home local is Portland, Oregon, 125. That's where I got called out as a groundman. That's where I got into the lineman apprenticeship in the Northwest. So my local union is 125. And I work under a bunch of different union contracts. As a journeyman lineman, you can work under every other union contract you want in the country. So you just get their pay, their benefits, and things like that. So, and will the hours always transfer? As an apprentice, yes, the hours will transfer. So I've seen where an apprentice in Mountain States, maybe he really needs to get certain hours in, let's just say, getting hot work, working on energized power lines. In Mountain States doesn't necessarily have hot work for him to go do. They'll make up an agreement to transfer him to SWOLCAT, to let's say New Mexico, to go get that required experience. So he'll actually get transferred. There's an agreement between the two where he'll go work in a completely different jurisdiction, you know what I mean, in a different state, different jurisdiction, and those hours will still count towards your apprenticeship. So basically almost any hour you work in the apprenticeship, it'll transfer anywhere you work. So because honestly too, you're filling out monthly evaluations every month, you're sending those into the apprenticeship, so the apprenticeship knows what kind of hours you're getting. I mean, those evaluations, foremen have to sign off on them, or general foreman or lineman, journeyman, they have to sign off on them. So there's a whole system in place to make sure it all works out. So basically, yeah, will you work for different unions? You'll work under different union contracts. Will you work for different companies? 100%. You can and will work for different companies. And will your hours always transfer? Yes, wherever you work, whatever hours you're getting, those hours will always count towards your apprenticeship. So hopefully you guys can learn from this episode 18 of CTQ, some more lineman related questions. But honestly, from my experience, from my knowledge, from talking to individuals in a lot of different trades, it's all structured fairly the same. So how it is in the lineman trade is very similar to how it is in other trades as well. You know, in those specifics within each trade, each union apprenticeship, obviously they're going to be a little bit different, but relatively the same. Hopefully you guys can learn from this episode. If you guys have questions, leave them in the comments down below. I'll take your guys' questions and I'll answer them in a future podcast episode for you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. With Blue Collar EDU, I'm here to expose, teach, educate you guys about blue collar career opportunities, how to get started in a skilled trade. With that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next episode.